What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, Abelson's College Football Show, presented by the Real Spiel Podcast. It is game week, baby. We are finally here. We have college football games going on this week. I am so excited. Week 0 is finally here. I love week 0. I love how popular it has gotten over the last few years. It was kind of just an afterthought where, there really wasn't any games. You were watching like Hawaii football and stuff like that. But over the course of the last couple of years, it has become just, just a nice little appetizer before week 1. Although week 1 slate is not really that good, but that is a conversation for a different day. Do better college football. You cannot have week 1 be a dud when you just had a 8-month hiatus from college football. But anyways, today's episode is going to consist of a couple things. We will touch on some of those week 1 games towards the end of the episode. We're not going to do a full breakdown and picks, but we will just loosely talk about some of those games and just my early thoughts and who I think is going to win. But the main bulk of the show, we are going to spend talking about our college football playoff prediction. We are going to give you a prediction. We are going to rank teams 1 through 12. We are going to fill the bracket, and we are going to pick a national championship winner. I'm going to preface by saying take all this with a grain of salt. I don't think there is going to be a single media personality or member out there who is going to pick their brackets correctly. I saw Josh Pate tweet yesterday or today that he's already making a change to his bracket, and he just put his out last week. We love you, Josh Pate, but still, take all this with a grain of salt. If I pick your team to win if I don't pick your team to win the national championship, it doesn't mean I don't think they can't. It's just I don't have them pick winning it. College football nowadays, over the last several years, has become a game where several teams can win national championships. There never has been more teams in the sport who are capable. This isn't 10 years ago with the recruiting era where you had to stack your rosters, you had to have 2-3 deeps who could be other teams' ones. No, I think with the parity, with the NIL and the transfer portal, more teams are capable of winning the sports championship. And honestly, I love it, man. I love it. But yeah, so before we get into it, do not forget to like, comment, subscribe. As always, we are here talking all things college football. Before we get into the actual rankings, I do want to just remind, just in case, people haven't been paying attention during the off season. I get it. Um, there are some changes to the college football playoff format, just some minor changes, nothing crazy. For the bulk of it, it's still the same as last year, but just a few tweaks. So they are still doing the top 4 seeds earn buys. They went away from that after the first year, where the buys went to the conference championship winners. So the top 4 seeds will be getting those buys no matter what conference they come out of. If all 4 seeds are Big Ten teams, then guess what? All 4 Big Ten teams are getting buys. So that is staying the same. A change is they are going back to the original format from the first year, where if you won your Power 4 conference, so ACC champ, SEC champ, Big Ten champ, Big 12 champ, those conference champions will be getting an automatic spot in the playoffs. That doesn't guarantee that they'll get an automatic bye, but they will get an automatic spot. I think they're doing this because after last year's debacle, the doomsday scenario where we saw the ACC champ being left out when Duke, a 7-5 team, won and was ranked behind JMU and Tulane. I think the Power 4 teams got together and were like, yeah, we can't have that happen again. We can't have 2 Group of 5 teams make the tournament. So they are going back to Power 4 conference champions get an automatic spot. Another change is Notre Dame. As long as they finish in the top 12 of the rankings, the final rankings, they get an automatic spot. So last year, if this would have been into effect last year, Miami actually would have gotten kicked out of the playoffs because Notre Dame finished 12 and they would have gotten an automatic spot, and the team above them would have been Miami, and they would have been left out. So hopefully we don't see that Miami Notre Dame scenario again this year, where a team that beat another team is behind that team they beat all year until the very final ranking poll. That was an absolute shit show, man. There's really no other way to put it. The committee needs to do better by rewarding head to head wins, and not ranking a team that beats you 5, 6, 7 spots in the first initial ranking. Again, that's a conversation for a different day. So yeah, let's get into the actual rankings though. So as far as my rankings go, at number 1, we have Oregon. The Oregon Ducks are my number 1 seed as they come in as the Big Ten champions. I think just like last year, the Big Ten champion will get that number 1 seed. Number 2, we have the SEC champ, the Georgia Bulldogs. Number 3, we have Notre Dame. Number 4, we have Miami as the ACC champ. So these two spots can almost be interchangeable if they wanted to. I am still, again, this game doesn't happen for a couple more months, but I am still just I can't get a read on it so far between Notre Dame and Miami, which it's the preseason. I'm not really supposed to be able to get a read on this. This will sort itself out, and I'll have a better idea of who I think will win this game. But in this scenario, I do have Notre Dame 12-0 as the number 3 seed. I think because they're not in a conference that will come back to hurt them, because you're not going to reward, even if Georgia or Oregon has one loss, if Notre Dame comes in undefeated, because of the fact that they aren't going to be in a conference, or they're not in a conference and they're not going to have that conference championship game as a resume booster, I think even undefeated, they would be left behind the Big Ten and the SEC champ, even if one of those teams had a loss. So again, Miami is in at number 4. I do have them as a one-loss conference champion, that one loss being to Notre Dame. Indiana at number 5. I do have them as my Big Ten runner-up, my Big Ten champion runner-up. Ohio State at number 6. I really like Ohio State this year, which again, I'm a certified Ohio State hater, but I do like them this year. It's just that schedule. I just always go back to that schedule. I said this last week's episode. We just always go back to that schedule with Ohio State, because I have Ohio State going 10-2. I just don't know where those 2 losses are going to come at. I don't. They could beat Texas and then lose 2 conference game, which I think is a likely scenario, or they could lose to Texas and lose 1 conference championship game. In this scenario, I have them beating Texas, and I have them losing 2 conference championship games, which in that scenario, I think that would leave them out of the conference championship game if they have 2 conference losses. So that's why I have them at number 6. We have Texas Tech at number 7. Although they are the Big 12 champs, I do have them losing at least 1 game. I think they are going to slip up at some point. I don't think they're going to go undefeated. They had a nasty roster and a great team last year, and they still slipped up. So I do think at some point they're going to slip up, but I do think they do eventually win the conference. And with them having 1 loss in their schedule not being that great, I do think the committee would reward like an Ohio State with 2 losses with their schedule, especially if they beat Texas. And again, with Ohio State's schedule, they would have beaten either Iowa, USC, Michigan, or Indiana. Probably not Indiana, but one of those. They're going to beat at least 3 of those teams. Oregon, Indiana, USC, Texas, Michigan, Iowa. Out of all those games in this scenario with 2 losses, they would have at least beaten 3 or 4 of those teams. So with that resume, even if with 2 losses, I just don't see a way that this committee would put Texas Tech above, Ohio State. At number 8, we do have Texas Longhorns. I think I have them as my I have them. Do I? Yeah. I have them as my SEC runner-ups. I do have Georgia beating Texas in the SEC championship game. And then we got LSU at number 9. We got Oklahoma at number 10, Boomer Sooner. We got USC, again, certified USC hater. But one thing you'll see about this podcast, we don't let our biasness get in the way of our takes. I don't like USC. I don't. But I think they're going to be a good team. Jade Mayava, they're saying that he has improved a lot. Again, they're bringing in a great portal class. They're bringing in a great recruiting class. I think it is the time and it is a season that Lincoln Riley is going to get it done. So I actually do have them making the playoffs, even though I don't like them. And then at the 12th spot, we do have Boise State as the group of 5 champion. Um, it's just I'm not really too confident in that. It's it's a crapshoot. Navy could have a good chance of making it. UNLV, Memphis, they play week 1. That game could decide the group of 5 champion. Especially with like some of the coaches getting poached with Eric Morris in Tulane, John Summer or Eric Morris with North Texas, John Summerall in Tulane, and some of these other teams, JMU with Bob Chesney. Those were going to be some of the teams that I would have been confident in, and even USF. Um, USF, where did his coach go? I can't. USF's coach from last year. Oh yeah, he went to Auburn. Yeah, he went to Auburn. So like those would have been my preseason, favorites to win the conference, but those coaches are gone. Most of the players that played on those teams are gone as well. So it's just hard to call that group of 5 spot. So right now we're just gonna have Boise State as our placeholder. So yeah, that is our ranking again. Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, Miami, Indiana, Ohio State, Texas, LSU, Oklahoma, USC, Boise State. And then just on the outside looking in, I do have this is really in no particular order either. Michigan is my first team out, though. I will say I do have Michigan as my first team out. Barely missing it. I do have them going 9-3. There is a chance a 9-3 team does make the playoffs. If Ohio State went 9-3 this year, I do think they will make the playoff at 9-3 with their schedule. But Michigan, they are my first team out, barely missing the playoffs. I do have Louisville again as a team just missing it. I have Louisville as my ACC runner up. I do have Louisville going 10-2 in the regular season. So if with them being 10-2 in the regular season, I think they make the ACC championship game, but that loss to Miami, unfortunately, I think would knock them out and have them on the outside looking in. Especially with how easy Louisville's schedule is, I don't think they can afford to lose 2 games and the conference championship game and make the playoffs. But I do think with their schedule and just that conference, really, in my opinion, being like maybe a 3, maybe a 4 team race if Clemson can get it together. I think Miami, SMU, and Louisville are the 3 teams to compete for the ACC title. So we do have Louisville just on the outside looking in. BYU, I like the Cougs. I think they're going to have a good season, but again, I have them on the outside looking in. But if that Notre Dame game, man, if you're a BYU fan, don't get discouraged by me having you guys on the outside looking in. Because circle that Notre Dame game. You have Notre Dame at home. That's your chance. That's your chance. If you want a chance of making the playoffs, you need to handle business at home against Notre Dame, upset them, and you guys might find your name in the top 12. And then I have Alabama just on the outside looking in. They did name Keelan Russell the starter this year. I do have Alabama losing, I think, 3 games. I think I have them going 9-3. Although we'll talk about this a little later. I do see more upside with Keelan Russell starting. But at the end of the day, he is still inexperienced, and I do think there are going to be some growing pains with him. So I do think there's going to be an opportunity where Alabama slips up once or twice, and I think they will be on the outside looking in as well. Ole Miss, I like Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss, Kewan Lacey. I think they have a good squad, but I do think they'll be on the outside looking in. I just think they're going to lose maybe 1 or 2 more games that they should. And then Texas A&M. I'm not big on Texas A&M this year just because they were really a product if there was any SEC team that was a product of their schedule last year, it was Texas A&M. 7 of their 8 SEC games were against bottom half teams, and they still towards the end of the season just kind of unraveled. So they have a much tougher schedule this year. So I don't think that they're gonna make it, man. I do not think Texas A&M will make it. So as far as our bracket goes, um, yeah, I have obviously Oregon's the 1 seed, Georgia's the 2 seed. We have Notre Dame as the 3 seed, and then we have um, Miami as the 4 seed. So those teams will earn automatic buys in the first round. Um, I don't want to fully go into tinfoil hat mode where these automatic buys are hurting teams, but it's starting to get to the point where the numbers don't lie, man. I'm pretty sure Indiana and Ohio. No, yeah, I think Indiana the first team to actually win with an automatic bye. I think they might have been because Georgia lost last year. Who else had an automatic bye last year? Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech lost last year, and then I can't think of the last team that had automatics that had first round bye. But yeah, either way, the numbers they're trending. They've been trending towards the side of the automatic buys are hurting you more than they are helping you. Um, so that's definitely going to be something to look at and keep your eyes on this season. But again, so yeah, with the 12-5 matchup, we do have Boise State versus Indiana. Obviously, I like Indiana. I don't think we have to go into this one much further. 8-9 matchup, we have Texas versus LSU. I think as long as LSU makes the playoffs, it'll be a successful first season. I'm not going to be one of these guys who has unrealistic expectations with Lane Kiffin and LSU. I know all the bullshit that happened with them and all the things that happened for him to be at LSU and all the, shenanigans and theatrics that led to that. I'm all that aside. If LSU makes the playoffs this year, win or lose in the first round or how deep they go, I think that's a successful season. So I unfortunately do have LSU losing to Texas in that 8-9 matchup. I think Texas's roster is just too good. I think that defense is going to be good. I think Arch Manning is going to take another step. And I do think Texas will beat LSU. With the 6-11 matchup, Ohio State versus USC. This is going to be a rematch of the regular season matchup with Ohio State and USC. Ohio State has a chance to lose that game. They travel all the way out to California to play that game. So I don't know if this is going to be a rematch or a revenge game for Ohio State, but I do have Ohio State winning against USC in the playoffs. And then for our 10-7 matchup, Oklahoma versus Texas Tech. I think this would be a close game. I think Texas Tech does have a chance of winning this game, but Oklahoma, their defense is just elite this year. I think the John Mateer we were supposed to see last year, we are going to see this year. He was the leader of Heisman. He was the odds-on favorite to win Heisman after that Michigan game before he broke his hand. He broke his hand. He was never the same. If he stays healthy this year, I think that can make Oklahoma a very dangerous team. So we have Oklahoma moving through. As for the second round, we have Indiana and Miami rematch of the national championship game last year. I do think Miami does get their revenge this year. I think Miami is going to be I think they're going to be better than last year. And they made it to the national championship game last year. I think they have a better quarterback. They obviously bring back their running back with Mark Fletcher, and I think the backup came back too. I think his last name was Brown, maybe. I don't know what his last name was, but he came back as well. They added Cooper Barcade from Duke with Mensa. They got Malachi Tony coming back. He's obviously just going to be better. I think, again, the offensive line is going to be good again. I think They do have question marks on the defensive line side because obviously they lost Ruben Bain, they lost Akeem Mesidor. Those were literally game breakers on the defensive end last year. So that is going to be a big question mark. We're going to have to see if they can replace those guys. I don't think they'll be able to replace them with just two guys. So it's going to probably have to be a by committee thing where the defensive line as a committee group helps each other out. But I do think Miami is going to be a better team than last year. So I do have them beating Indiana. And then as far as Oregon and Texas, I have Oregon winning that game. Again, I just kind of like what I said with Miami. I just think Oregon's just going to be a better version of last year. They bring back a big core of their team from last year. On the defensive end, they bring back offensive guys, a couple of the receivers, DeCorian Moore and Evan Stewart, who were pretty much banged up most of last season. They're coming back. I just think Oregon has the pieces to make a deep run. And then let's see, I have Ohio State and Notre Dame, a rematch of the 2024 college football championship game. I do have Notre Dame winning this game. I think Notre Dame's just going to be hell bent this year, man. I think they're just going to. I think Marcus Freeman has just been getting in their heads every single offseason workout, every single fall camp workout, spring training, every lift session. I think he's just been preaching in their head to remember last year, to remember how we lost 2 games by a total of 4 points, to remember how we were left out at the final hour of the college football playoffs after being in the college football playoffs, all the rankings, in the very last ranking, we were left out by 1 spot. I think he's just in their heads, just telling them that over and over and over again. And a lot of those guys are coming back. Notre Dame, I think they're top 5 in returning production. So a lot of those guys, they remember that pain. They are still there. They feel that pain of missing the playoffs. And I think that to go along with their schedule, they're just going to be on a tear this year. So I do have them beating Ohio State. Then Oklahoma and Georgia, I do have Georgia winning that game. I think it's just more of a situation where when we're in this spot in the playoffs, I think I'm just going to trust Kirby Smart more than I'm going to trust Brent Venables. Gunnar Stockton, he is, although he's only been starting for a year, he's a guy who I feel you can trust in these moments. And I'm just going to take the team who's been there, who's been in that situation. I think they get over that hump of winning that first bye game because we've seen Georgia go out the last 2 years in their first game after having that first round bye last year to Ole Miss and then the year before to Notre Dame. As far as the semifinal rounds go, we have Oregon versus Miami. I think this is where Miami's season does come to an end. I do have Oregon winning that game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a competitive game, but I think Oregon does take the edge. I think when you get to this point, I think their roster and talent just kind of out handles Miami. And I think they win that game. And then Notre Dame and Georgia, a rematch of, again, the 2024 college football playoff game. I think this game ends the same way that it did before. I think Notre Dame but I think Notre Dame beats Georgia in a close semifinal game to move on to the national championship game where they will play Oregon versus Notre Dame. And then from here, I do have I have Oregon winning the national championship. So your 2027 national championship winners will be the Oregon Ducks. And we have to stop with this. I'm about to go on my soapbox real quick, man. I'm not even an Oregon homer. I'm not like an overly Oregon fan. I think they're good. I like them. I like Dan Lanning as a coach. But we have to stop with this narrative of Oregon for people to be thinking that they are not a legit team. I understand the way their seasons ended the last couple of years, getting blown out by Ohio State in the college football playoffs, getting absolutely handled by Indiana in the college football playoffs. I get that. But those are two teams who won the national championship game that same year. We have to stop pretending like Oregon is this like make believe Mickey Mouse pretend contender. Like Oregon is a legit contender. They won the Big Ten in their first year and made the college football playoffs as the undefeated number 1 seed. They lost last year, but they were still a great team. In Dan Lanning's tenure at Oregon, he's lost 8 games. 4 of those games have been to the eventual national championship winner. So we have to just stop acting like Oregon just is like some like make believe contender, dude. I think Oregon is legit, and I think this is going to be their best team that they bring back in the Dan Lanning era. Dante Moore's coming back. Jordan Davidson, the running back's back again. DeCorian Moore and Evan Stewart, Jamari Johnson, the tight end. I mean, they brought back a plethora of their defensive linemen. I just think they have one of the most talented teams in the country, and we just have to stop treating Oregon like they're not a good team or they're just some pretend contending team. And I think that'll happen this year. I think we will see that they are a legit team, and I think Oregon. I think they're going to win the national championship, which I will say I'm not like extremely confident about it. There are a lot of good teams on this bracket that could win the national championship. I can see Ohio State winning it. I can see Notre Dame absolutely winning it. I can see Georgia winning it. I can see Indiana winning the national championship. Texas. I think Texas has probably the second or third best roster in the country. So, like, this is not me thinking Oregon is going to win it by a country mile. Like, the margins are thin at the top of the country, man. Like, the margins are just razor thin, but I just think Oregon just has a slight edge, and I do think they'll win the national championship. So let me know what you guys think about that, man. Let me know. Am I bugging? Am I tripping? Or is Oregon not like that? Let me know. Let me know down in the comments. Am I too high on Oregon? Am I too high on some of these other teams? Let me know who you guys think is going to be making the playoffs. I know probably a bunch of Bama fans are going to be commenting, so let me know if you think it's going to be Alabama. Let me know if you think it might be Texas A&M, BYU, Michigan. Let me know down in the comments. So switching gears, we will. I want to talk about some of the quarterback battles that have been decided so far. Alabama's has been decided. Vanderbilt's has been decided, which that I might, since we're just on the topic, that one caught me by surprise a little bit. So I forgot the starter's name. So obviously Jared Curtis. Am I saying his name right? Let's see. Yeah, Jared Curtis. So yeah, in my opinion, I thought Jared Curtis was going to be the definite starter at Vanderbilt. He was a 5-star player, I think top 4 or 5, top 3, 4 quarterback in his class. Maybe he might have been the number 1 quarterback in his class, if I'm not mistaken. But he flipped from Georgia to Vanderbilt. So the assumption was kind of, hey, we're gonna promise you a starting job. Like if that's what it takes to get you from Georgia to Vanderbilt, let's make it happen. So that was my assumption. Maybe obviously I'm not really tapped in with all this stuff. You know, it's kind of things that I hear through other media people on podcasts and stuff. But I thought he was going to get the nod, but Blaise Berowitz, he was named the starter, which especially when you have a 5-star quarterback creeping down your neck nowadays, especially with teams just being so quick we've seen multiple teams over the last couple of years just being so quick to flip on their starter when they're not performing. So I don't know how long of a leash Blaise has. So it's going to be interesting to keep your eye on. If Vanderbilt goes out and loses a couple games early, I think we're going to see a situation where Jared Curtis gets thrusted in and starts to play. So that one really did surprise me a little bit. As far as Tennessee goes, Faison Brandon, the 5-star freshman, he did get the nod at Tennessee. Josh Heupel decided to go with him over George McIntyre. Um, again, I don't have any problem with this, man. If you're a Tennessee fan, let me know what you guys think of this. But I don't have a problem with going with the more talented, physically ready guy, because that's what I've been hearing a lot of in terms of why they went over Faison Brandon. He's just more physically, I guess, ready, more physically fit to be the starter. I hear that George McIntyre just his body isn't developed the way they want it to be. He's a slender, more frail guy, and Faison Brandon, I think he's what, like 6'4", 230, 40 pounds. And I think they're just more confident in his talent. So he did get the nod. Faison Brandon did get the nod at Tennessee. Obviously, Keelan Russell, that was announced last year. He got the nod over Austin Mack. Again, I'm not going to be too upset when a really talented, uh, inexperienced guy with higher upside gets the nod over a guy who has been around the block or around longer. George McIntyre and Austin Mack, these are two guys who have been around a few years. So I'm not upset with the younger, more talented guy getting the nod. Aaron Philo, he did get the nod at Florida. That one wasn't really much of a surprise when he transferred from Georgia Tech and followed the offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner, the offensive coordinator, to Florida. He was going to start at Georgia Tech. He had already been there for a couple years. He knows the system. He was going to start at Georgia Tech. So for him to transfer to Florida, leaving what felt like a guaranteed starting position to go to Florida, where he's going to be trying to start for a new coach, you have to be pretty confident that you're going to get the starting job, I think, to do that, especially since he knows the system. Obviously, his offensive coordinator is the offensive coordinator at Florida, so he knows the system. He's been practicing with the system, so I think that did give him an edge, and he was named the starter for Florida. So yeah, that's just a few of the quarterback battles across the country that got decided this week. And lastly, we will just end the show. This is not going to be, again, we will be doing in-depth picks all throughout the season. We'll be picking the biggest games of the week. We'll be giving a full breakdown of those games and what I like about them, who I like about them, why I think one team will win against the other. And we will be picking the spreads on those games against the spreads all season. We'll be keeping track of our picks. But I just wanted to really just touch on these games real quick. Not really give too much of a breakdown, but just who I think has the edge heading into these games. Um, so as far as week 0 goes, we have probably the game people are most excited about is North Carolina versus TCU. I've seen this line so far anywhere between. Actually, no. This line it's been pretty much at -7.5 for TCU since the books have really opened up. Um, I just don't have that much confidence that North Carolina is going to be very good this year. Um, it's not. It's not. It's not very. You don't instill a lot of confidence in me when before the season even starts, your GM gets put on administrative leave because he's not really doing a great job with the team. And that was their problem last year was the roster. The roster was absolutely terrible. North Carolina went they went fishing for a bunch of group of 5 guys that honestly weren't really being bidded on, you know? Um, there's a formula. There's a formula that these SEC and Big Ten teams kind of do. They go, obviously, they want get Power 4 guys. They want to get guys out of the other Power 4 conferences. But when it comes to the Group of 5 conferences, they try and get the big names in the Group of 5 from the Group of 5 teams. And North Carolina, they weren't really going after the big names in the Group of 5. They were going after like the mediocre mid names, the names that people weren't really beating down the doors to get. And that reflected in their season. It was absolutely abysmal. And going into this season, I think they did announce they will be starting Billy Edwards, which when he's healthy, he is a serviceable quarterback. I think he's better than Gio Lopez from last year. But just the rest of the roster, just they didn't really do anything this offseason to kind of change my opinion on them, like it's just it's still like just a lot of mid, it seems like. So I like TCU. They have that transfer quarterback from Harvard. I like Sonny Dykes. He's a good coach, unlike Bill Belichick in college. He actually knows what he is doing. So early on, I do like TCU, and I just can't. I just don't have a lot of confidence that North Carolina will be able to cover the spread on that one. USC and San Jose State. USC right now is sitting at 38.5-point favorite. There's not much. USC is going to handle them. There's not really much to say about that. NC State and Virginia. This should actually probably be the best game of the first of week 0 slate. NC State, they're bringing back CJ Bailey. I think they're going to have a much better season than they did last year. Not last season, they were pretty good. But I think with CJ Bailey coming back, another year of experience, I think he will take another step. So I do think NC State will be a competitive team this year. I think they can be in that middle of the pack mix to, knock maybe a couple teams out, maybe get, backdoor their way into the ACC championship game. We know the ACC over the last year or two has just been crazy. So we saw a 5-way tie and a 7-5 team win the conference last year. So nothing is off the table. But Virginia, they're looking to build off of a great season last year. They fell just short and didn't win the conference, but they got right on the doorsteps. They bring in Bo Pribula. I think he will be the starter this coming up year. And I think they have a chance to, again, kind of do the same because I like Bo Pribula. I know he was hurt and injured towards the end of last season, so that kind of derailed the pretty good season he was having. But I think he will do well at Virginia, especially because we've already seen his kind of play style translate at Virginia last year with Chandler Morris, whatever. He is kind of like that dual threat, run, pass type quarterback. And that also is what Bo Pribula is as well. So I think he fits right into that Tony Elliott system. And I think right now we're sitting at Virginia minus 5.5. I'm leaning slightly towards Virginia on that one, but I do think NC State will cover that spread at 5.5. I think that game is going to be a close one. But early on, we do like Virginia. Memphis UNLV, man, that's a game that could early on decide the group of 5 champ, man. That is going to be a game between two teams, Memphis UNLV, that I think at the end of the season are going to be in the mix for that playoff spot. So the winner of this one can really set themselves up to, have a great case to get in. But early on, I think I am leaning just slightly towards UNLV. That spread right now is UNLV minus 4.5. I'm just slightly leaning towards them covering it. But again, Memphis, they have a chance to win that game. Wouldn't be surprised if they did win and cover the spread. So I might actually take just Memphis plus 4.5 instead of UNLV minus 4.5. But that should be a competitive game. But that is all we have for today's episode. Just wanted to come in here, give my college football playoff prediction, talk about some of these week 0 games. So keep an eye out next week. We will be breaking down week 1 slate. We have Louisville, Ole Miss in Nashville. That's the game I'll be at. We have Notre Dame, Wisconsin. We have, honestly, I'm sorry, it's just not that great of a spread, man. It really isn't. But let's see. I can't think of them all on the top of my head. Oh, we have LSU and Clemson. That should be a pretty interesting game. But yeah, we have a couple other games. So worry about that next week. Keep an eye out for week 1 full breakdown, previews, and picks. And we'll get the season going, man. So if you've made it this far, I appreciate you for listening. Do not forget to drop a like, subscribe to the pod, subscribe to the channel, share this with a friend, comment. Let me guys know who your national championship winners are going to be. As always, thank you for listening. Peace.